to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second on the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. We have no special presentations, so we'll dive right into ordinance's final read. Madam Clerk, let's go to 5A, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 10, relative to administration and technology fees.
It's a pleasure of the council.
Move approval.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Moving to planning, item B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of the property located at 1001 Reeds Lake Road from C2 Convenience Commercial Zone to C2 Convenience Commercial Zone with conditions.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have had a lot of discussion over this item. It did pass on first reading. I move approval on second reading.
All right. I've got a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is no. Thank you, ma'am. 2 abstentions.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. C, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone parts of properties located at 2760 and 2770 North Point Boulevard from M3 Warehouse and Wholesale Zone and C2 Convenience Commercial Zone to R4 Special Zone.
Councilman Ledford, followed by Councilman Henderson.
Mr. Chair, I believe this is in your district. If
Yes,
your
sir.
approval, I'd like to move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. T, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1710 Gunbear Road, more particularly described herein from O1 Office Zone to C2 Convenience Commercial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Ledford.
Move to approve.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. E, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of the property located at 1813 Morris Hill Road from R1 Residential Zone to RTZ Residential Townhouse 0 Lot Line Zone.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. Move to approve.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. F, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1105 McDonald Drive from R1 Residential Zone to C2 Convenience Commercial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. Move to approve.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. G, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of property located at 7628 Davidson Road from A1 Urban Agricultural Zone to R4 Special Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. Move to approve.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. And H, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 1635 Rossville Avenue and 1614, 1620, 1626, and 1638 Capella Street from URA3 Urban Residential Attached 3 Stories Maximum Height Zone to UCX3 Urban Commercial Mixed Use 3 Stories Maximum Height Zone.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. I, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Chapter 31, Sewers, Mains, and Drains, Article 8, Stormwater Management, Division 7, Fees, Section 31, 356.1.1, Adjustments to Quality Fee related to water quality fee reductions.
Councilman Mitchell.
Move approval.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Jay, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 18, Garbage and Refuse.
Councilman Mitchell.
Move approval.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Those are all our ordinances on final read. And before we move to ordinance on first read, I can only assume that not all of you came just because you wanted to watch the entire council meeting. So if there are any of you that are here for some of those ordinances on final read, feel free to leave if you'd like. Or you're welcome to stay, of course. Thank you. We'll wait just a moment while they exit. You're welcome, sir.
You have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim. Good to see you. Yeah. Both weeks. So they were all here both weeks. All right, Madam Clerk, let's get back to it. Ordinances, first read. A, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Chapters 1, 2, 6, 11, 12, 16, 18, 20, 24, 25, 26, 28, and 35 relating to archaic provisions of the city code considered in 2018.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. B, please, under planning.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to lift condition 11B of previous case number 2016-060 and amend ordinance number 13110 of properties located in the 2300 to 2500 blocks of Gunbarrel Road, 7325 through 7342 blocks of McCutcheon Road, 2500 block of Lifestyle Way, and 2300 through 2400 blocks of Elam Lane, more particularly described herein.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. I was able to speak with the applicant, received an email which was copied to the city attorney and also the chairman of this council with a motion to withdraw, so I make that motion now.
All right, I've got a motion and a second to withdraw. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 3017 Dodds Avenue from M1 manufacturing zone to R2 residential zone.
All right, Councilman Oglesby.
Mr. Chair, last Friday, I met with the applicant and members of the Neighborhood Association, and we came into full agreement that this would be something that would be great for the neighborhood and help improve the quality of life. So therefore, I move to approve.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. D, please, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance granting a franchise to Comcast of the South to construct, operate, and maintain a cable system in the city of Chattanooga, Tennessee, for the purpose of providing cable service, setting forth conditions accompanying the grant of the franchise, providing for regulation and use of the system and the public rights of way in connection with the city's right-of-way ordinance, if any, and prescribing penalties for the violations of the provisions herein.
All right, what's the pleasure of the council? Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Down to resolutions, Madam Clerk. When you're ready, 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with Barge Design Services with up to $100,000 eligible for reimbursement from the recently awarded Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development grant for the former Harriet Tubman home site for an amount of $200,000.
Councilman Byrd?
Chair, can Maura come explain what this $200,000 will cover for us, please?
It's the up to
Sharita.
100,000,
Where's Sharita?
yes.
Okay. Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And there's a little Debbie snack cake if anybody needs one.
Well, okay.
Good evening, Council. Sharita Allen, Deputy Administrator, Economic Development. This particular item covers a grant that the Economic Development Department, in partnership with the Chattanooga Chamber, applied for in December of 2017. The grant was due diligence studies for the Harriet Tubman project. It includes roughly 6 or 7 items that range from wetland studies to architectural studies, engineering studies, mass grading studies. It would be all those studies that would be necessary to bring any kind of project to the site, regardless of the zoning. We applied for a grant through the state of Tennessee. It's the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development, or Community and Economic Development. We were awarded that. It was matched, and so this is simply entering into an agreement with Barge, the engineering firm, to conduct the studies.
Okay. Thank you so much. And that move to approve?
All right. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. B, please.
A resolution to confirm the mayor's reappointment of James Ballard Jr. and appointment of Lauren Dunn to the Construction Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
Pleasure of the council. All right. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. C, please.
A resolution authorizing the award of contract number Y17013-201 to JDH Company, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee, replacement roofing system for North Chattanooga YFD Center Building in the amount of $32,130 with a contingency amount of $3,200 for an amount not to exceed $35,330.
Councilman Henderson.
Move approval.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. D, please.
A resolution supporting the reauthorization of funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund.
All right, Councilman Ledford, I've got your light.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to make sure we had our wording changed from the previous version. Yes.
Confirmed.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Down to E, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing Gordon's Cleaners, care of James Ledbetter, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the eastern side of 315 North Market Street for the purpose of installing window awnings as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move approval.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. F, please.
A resolution authorizing Ryan Dillard, property owner, to use temporarily the unopened right-of-way extending eastward from Intermont Circle to the property located at 770 Intermont Circle for the purpose of improving the right-of-way for public access as shown in the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Mitchell, followed by Councilman Henderson.
Move approval.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. G, please.
A resolution authorizing Ortwine Sign, care of Jim Till, on behalf of property owner Jonesy Wood, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the northwest corner of 3804 St. Elmo Avenue for the purpose of installing a projecting sign as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference subject to certain conditions.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. H, please.
A resolution authorizing SE Engineering care of Kevin Yates on behalf of applicant Jerry Katzoff and property owner James Williamson use temporarily the right-of-way located along the enclosed sidewalk area at 225 Broad Street for exterior seating for a new Starbucks under the existing deck of the High Point Climbing Gym, as well as a wall marquee and a projecting sign as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference, subject to certain conditions.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Aye, please.
A resolution authorizing renewed care of J. Martin, acting on behalf of property owner Market Street VL Partners LLC, care of Thomas Connolly, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the Market Street and Underwood Street frontage of 1620 Market Street for the purpose of installing awnings as shown on the maps attached hereto and made a part hereof by reference, subject to certain conditions.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. J, please.
A resolution authorizing Tennessee Awning Company, care of Amy Clinton, on behalf of property owner Rashid Magadi, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the eastern side of 405 Market Street for the purpose of recovering existing awnings as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference, subject to certain conditions.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. K, please.
A resolution authorizing Tennessee Awning Company, care of Amy Clinton, on behalf of property owner Brad Lee, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the southern frontage of 235 East M.L. King Boulevard for the purpose of installing awnings as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Byrd. All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. That finishes the items on our regular agenda and takes us to purchases. Ms. Woodard?
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have 3 purchases for your review tonight. The first is on behalf of the Information Technology Department. It is a blanket contract renewal for Oracle software and support to be awarded to Mythix, Inc. in an estimated annual amount of $300,000. Next, on behalf of the Public Works Department, we have a new blanket contract for machining and fabrication services to be awarded to Valley Mechanical, Inc. in an estimated annual amount of $451,000. And finally, on behalf of the Finance Department, we have the blanket contract renewal for tax bill printing and mailing to be awarded to Allison Payment Systems, LLC, in the estimated annual amount of $85,000.
All right, what's the pleasure of the council? Move to approve. Second. All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woodard. Other business. Is there anybody on the council that has other business they would like to discuss this evening? Councilman Byrd.
Of a situation that we've been talking about for a while. And if I need to yield to someone else, because I do have several questions to ask concerning the Avondale Rec Center and where we are with that process. So if anyone else has something before I go, I would be willing to yield to them.
All right, Councilman, I've got 2 of the lights.
Okay.
Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier today in our strategic planning meeting, I brought up about issues surrounding, the killings that's been happening amongst our African-American young people. So I'm just asking the community today that's here, and if you would extend that same invite out to your church family and to your family, friends, next door neighbors, is that if we will all come together in a collective effort, and I understand we do have a police department that's, they have their rules and, their policies that they adhere by and different programs that we fund as well. Well, I'm asking the community to be supportive of the community. And if we could just make sure we're doing our part in the community, if we see any activity that shouldn't be happening, if we will report that activity that's happening, if you see, you know, at homes and different things, even if you run across someone, a young lady or a young man that may need some help or need to be empowered, refer them to Troy Rogers. He's our public safety coordinator. We have a lot of different programs that's happening at our Youth and Family Development Center. We've got Uncle Joe that does the teen empowerment at our different recreation centers. And if you have just an hour, 30 minutes or to an hour of time that you can volunteer to go to the recreation centers and, you know, go to the churches if you have a church group there, even go to the schools, because if we do our part as well, because we cannot continue to act as if it's just its own individual silo of the police department to handle. We have to start thinking outside of those walls, and we have to do our part too. So I'm just asking you all to join in efforts with the city council person, all of us, because we can no longer have the mindset that it's not happening in our backyards. It's happening in all of our yards. If it's happening in East Chattanooga, if it's happening on Lookout Valley, it doesn't matter what act of violence that it is. But if we all come together and work cohesively together, then we can make sure that we're reducing crimes no matter what level that it's on. So I challenge each and every one of you to please help us out, because we want to work together. The millennials, I ask you to join us in efforts as well too. You know, help us create solutions around this that where we can move our city in a different direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Gilbert.
Just remind everyone that tomorrow early votes start, so please go out and vote. Your vote does make a difference.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Byrd, I have no more lights. Hit your light.
Is that better?
There you go.
There we
You're
go. All right, thank you, Chair. We've had several discussions about the Avondale Rec Center and things that are going on inside the center, whether it comes to programming, definitely the bleachers, the concrete bleachers that sit inside the rec center. I've talked with the neighborhood president, Ken Smith, and we talked about even creating a team or a panel of people that would meet with Jason and some of the architects on a monthly basis to even go over things that are happening from this point on. We were asking the staff and people to see if we can come up with a solution to do something about the concrete bleachers and tearing them out. And it was a point to the fact of the gym not being regulation size. We've received several emails where they came from Commissioner Mackey or several constituents in the community addressing those problems. And I just wanted to know where have we gotten or what have we got with this situation, or do we have any solutions or anything that we're willing to do as a city moving forward to address the concerns of the constituents and the people in the community who frequent that gym a lot. So I guess I'll leave it open to you, Maura, Tony, Stacy, to just see where we at this point. Thank you.
Good evening, Council.
Hey, Chief.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Byrd, for your questions and for your continued advocacy. I'll make some brief remarks, and I'm going to attempt to be brief. I told you 10 minutes, and then since then I've told other council people 5 minutes, so I'm going to do my best. And then we've got some actual renderings from the Youth and Family Development Department, which I'm sure you have seen before, but maybe members of the community haven't. We've actually compiled some new images as well to try to help shed some light on the different concerns that have arisen and some of the misconceptions that are out there about the facility, some misinformation. So thank you again for this opportunity to briefly discuss the new $6 million center that's being constructed in Avondale. I want to start with a very brief history of the project, how we even got here. Why is this center going to be in Avondale as opposed to Eastdale, as opposed to Washington Hills, as opposed to Brainerd? And I want to start, before I even get into that, I want to start by saying, you know, Councilman Byrd frequently reminds me and reminds our team, he and Mayor Byrd both do this, that the phrase trust us is not good enough, because a lot of communities have seen what happens when governments, educational institutions, policymakers, landlords come in and they say trust us. And we understand that we have to make good on our promises, and that's what we're attempting to do in Avondale, and hopefully the information that we provide tonight will clear up a lot of the misinformation that's circulating out there. That's one of the reasons we want to speak tonight about how the neighborhood's impact has shaped the design of the center, how we envision the neighborhood continuing to shape the design of programming and activities that will continue to take place when it's completed next spring. So along the lines of how we got here, the city began the process of surveying users of our YFD centers in 2015 to create a list of improvements that needed to occur in each of the facilities. And this was a list of basically things that had been deferred over time, roofs that hadn't been replaced, floors that needed to be refinished, buildings that needed to be painted. And they were large activities and they were small activities. And the people of Avondale basically said, the only thing that will make our center right for this community is to build us a new one. And it was not surprising to hear that. It's one of our smallest and oldest recreation centers. And Mayor Burke agreed with that sentiment. The funds were committed that a new center would be in the budget of May of 2016, and the new Avondale Center will be one of the largest single capital expenditures of general fund ever made by the Burke administration, larger than the city's commitment to Miller Park. That budget was approved on July 1st, 2016. Planning commenced in 2017 after the selection of our architects, HHK. The planning consisted of 4 public meetings and numerous other meetings with neighborhood leaders, elected officials of the area, and community stakeholders. The result of those meetings will be one of the largest, most state-of-the-art facilities in our YFD building portfolio. If you think of a house being constructed, we're only at the portion where walls are being framed. So it's difficult to see how this empty shell will be transformed. But this YFD Center, as illustrated in the plans and the blueprints we will show you in a moment, will hold a full-size standard basketball court that is housed in a gym twice as large as the basketball court at the current center. It will also have locker rooms, multiple classrooms, a computer lab, a dance studio, and many other places for personal enrichment or quiet reflection. Tonight, we want to dispel misinformation instead of letting us distract us from what is most important, the education of children, the activities for seniors, and how together we will use the $6 million investment to enhance the quality for everyone in this historic neighborhood. So I want to turn it over to YFD to go through some of the mechanics, Councilman, that you explained about the bleachers, because frankly we understand that it's really difficult for people to see how this empty shell is going to house all these different components, and we're hoping that some of the images that we have here will help clear it up. We did check the safety of the bleachers. It exceeds every safety recommendation. As I've already stated, the gym is larger than Brainerd. It's larger than Eastdale. It's larger than most other facilities. It'll be the second largest gym in the overall portfolio of the YFD building facilities. So I want them to kind of break that down in terms of images, and then I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions once we kind of laid all that out.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Council. As they bring up the PowerPoint, we're going to kind of go through the different slides. We had a video that we showed several months ago before we rolled out the center, before we started building. That will be on our that'll be on our Connect page. We're not going to show that again. It's about 5 or 6 minutes long, and it's kind of a walkthrough with somebody kind of walking through the virtual, kind of a virtual reality type of a video. But we'll put that on the Connect page for any citizen that wants to see it, and we'll have that. That's not it. We need the. I don't think Blythe wants me talking about the transportation.
I think we're done with those.
She's looking at me like I don't know.
Jason, anything else that you can discuss while we're waiting on that too?
Well, I was kind of going through, because most of it is like the slides. It's really showing kind of, because everybody kind of sees the shell now and kind of sees where the different building pieces are. And also kind of we have some overlays of the blueprints of what the current center looks like versus over top of the new center, and then the gym floor.
All right, I'll tell you what, go ahead, and Councilman Henderson. Hit your button so I can, there you go. All right. May have a few questions.
Okay.
Jason, I do
some
have
time.
a few questions, if you could confirm some things. I actually got the blueprints and looked over the layout of the building. The court size measures on the blueprints 50 by 84. Can you confirm what a regulation high school court is?
That is 50 by 84 is the regulation high school basketball court.
Okay, so the dimensions of this court is 50 by 84.
Correct.
So it's, and there is a 10-foot buffer or safety zone all the way around this court,
Correct.
from end walls, side walls, and bleachers.
The when we have that on the dimensions there is 67 by 104, is I believe, which gives
Yeah, I
it
think that gives you a
buffer there.
10-foot buffer all the way
Right.
around. That's what it shows on the plans. So let me ask you, and I think some of the questions kind of swirl around the safety of the concrete bleachers, the kids running into those concrete bleachers. I don't know what the standard safety buffer is. Is there any way we could shift that court 2 feet towards the side wall? That would give us 8 feet from the side wall and 12 feet then from the bleachers. Would that add any money to the project, and would 8 feet give us enough for the typical safety buffer?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Stacy answer that, but we did discuss that earlier.
Okay.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we've discussed with Councilman Byrd at his suggestion, and I can't overstate enough how much we value his leadership, is establishing through this committee. Right now we have a number of options. That's one that's on the table. It would potentially be no cost or low cost. We'd have to weigh that out carefully, but that's one of several options that we've looked at and would like to talk more with the community about. But yeah, it's definitely on the table, and we could move it without it infringing on the other side.
On the
Yeah,
8 foot,
we believe so.
on the wall buffer side? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We got the presentation up. You wanna
Okay,
hold?
I can hold, yeah.
All right. Councilman Byrd, you're active again for the
No,
presentation.
that's all right. I'll wait.
Okay.
All right. So as I said, the Avondale walkthrough video is going to be live on the Connect page and can be shared out to the community members here. You know, I can send it out to Councilman Byrd. He can share it out. It's just a 5-minute walkthrough of kind of a digital version of a video of the center. All right. She hidden. Okay, I'll just go and go with this. So this is the look of the corner as you go and you're looking from the Dodds Wilcox corner, the main entrance door. As you come in, you'll enter the foyer, and then you can also see the gymnasium on the back side. On the right-hand side will be the Reading Tech Library area, and so this kind of gives you that the viewpoint. The multi-purpose room, this was a major request from the community. It seats about 175 to 200, depending on how the tables are laid out. On the left-hand side, through those doors, you have the gymnasium. To the right, you have the foyer. And then to the back, where it kind of is showing windows on this version, but you're going to have a kitchen, a storage, and then the teen center. The Reading Tech Library area, that's where you have that. As you are coming down Wilcox, you see the curved structure right now. This is what you would see there is the Reading Tech area. Off to the left, you actually will have a dance studio, then a classroom, and then an art room, all kind of about the same length, all on the left-hand side. As you enter the main doors coming from the Wilcox Dodd entranceway, this is the foyer walk into. As you see the kind of tying in, this is kind of more of a relaxing sitting area. We see it being an active area for anybody that kind of comes in as wants a quiet place. Seniors can come in and play cards in the morning. We also have it as a staging area for any event that's happening in the multi-purpose room, which is on the left-hand side here. And this is just be kind of more of an active area. And then on the back wall, you actually can see it in this picture here. One of the things that we're trying to do is tie in the old center and keep some pieces of it. And so you'll see the artwork that's in the current center right now. We're going to be able to keep that and put on that back wall. So that was kind of the shell of things. I think the main focus point right now for the community is this gymnasium. This is a still from the slideshow that we showed at the original layout of the center. On it, you see where the current bleachers are, and then underneath the bleachers are the locker rooms, restrooms. There's some storage on the sides. You can actually see where the basketball courts for the side ones are folded up, and then you have this this length here. And like I said earlier, it's 104 by 67 is the entirety of the gym floor, but the actual floor playing surface is your regulation high school size of 84 by 50. So this right here kind of illustrates a little bit more about the size, so we kind of took the blueprints and was able to overlay the current center. The current center is about 5,617 square feet. You know, to put that in perspective, that's about the size of the current gymnasium. So as you kind of go in, you start seeing kind of how big is this, the certain areas. This kind of gives you a little more perspective. It's hard to do right now when you walk in there to look at a dirt floor and kind of picture on how this is going to look. But the new Avondale Center is going to be 22,550 square feet. And then you see the entire the entire gym floor area is about 7,000 square feet, with the basketball court being that regulation high school basketball court. This also kind of, you know, as we are kind of looking more at the basketball court, what does it currently look like? This is kind of zeroed in even more so. And, you know, most of the citizens are really familiar with the size of the current Avondale Center, the current floor. So this shows you kind of what the current floor is, which is a 30 by 68 feet floor, and how it kind of compares to what the regulation is. So, you know, when you kind of can look at one side, you can kind of start getting that a little bit more of a visual on how the two compare. But it is the high school regulation. And then there's also questions about, you know, what different spaces are going to be used for, and how we are programming, and how we're looking at the new center, and how, you know, some of the people were asking about, well, how's this compared to old centers, and changing from a recreation center more to a YFD center, more of a community-based center. We're going from the gym focus, that's just, you know, gym with a little bit of space, but mainly looking at athletic activities, age specific, where we don't have room just to do one age at a time, mainly being only youth-based and just like single-use rooms. So where we're moving this to is it's more of a facility used for a variety of activities. So we're going to be able to have, you know, activities happening in the gym. We're going to be able to have computer literacy going on, classroom space, art room, dance room. All that is going to be able to be active at the exact same time, where currently that's not what we're able to do. We're only able to do one activity at a time. So having multi-use, our goal is to have multi-generational use, so the whole entire family comes in. It's not just a youth dropped off, it's the family comes in and there's something going on for everyone. And it gives a space and a purpose for all ages, that, you know, throughout different times, but also the same time of day, that we want all ages there. And then we've been very strategic about every room is multi-purpose. Everything's kind of on wheels, where we can change the layout of the room to fit the need of the next group coming in minutes. So the same space could be used for a yoga class, then turn around and use it for a meeting space, then turn around and use it to feed the children. And it could be used that just back to back, and that change of space enables us to do more programming, and also look into the future about how we want to, things we might not know, things we might want to change, something comes new, this is the new latest great thing to do, these are things we can change into. So that's kind of how things are progressing. And also, one of the things that we also really want to highlight is we really have prided ourselves on trying to make a great space here, but ultimately our YFD centers are, what keeps them coming alive is the personnel that we place in there. You know, the current center has been there for about 50 years and has changed numerous lives. And it's not the space that has changed the life, it's the people that we've placed in there. And we are currently hiring new people because as we expand, we're going to be able to hire new individuals to come in. We're being very strategic to making sure that they also have the passion for the community and the desire to help. So that's something that we also, as we kind of get trapped up in what we have and what we're looking for, we really want to kind of also put our focus on who makes these dreams come true. And then now I want to turn it over to Coach Jennings. He's going to talk a little bit more about the future programming.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, thank you, Stacy, Jason, for the presentation. As we move forward, as Jason mentioned, it's important for us to get the staff in place that really cares and really continue to change lives and move that community forward along with the community. The community has to play an important part in seeing the vision, understanding the vision, and working along with the team to help the vision come to fruition. With that said, for generations to come, this facility will make a major impact. This is the space that we have available, the foyer, gymnasium, multipurpose room with kitchen, this teen center, library, art room, and other classrooms that would give the center a lot of flexibility to do a lot of things. What I want to focus on now real briefly is the programming. At this particular time, we have present programming that's going on, and not only at Avondale, but in other centers. We have new brochures out on the table. On your way out, you can pick up a brochure to see the various programs, compliments of Kenawa Kaitabi with our new YFD brochure to see the existing programs that we have going on in our centers. Now, the future program for the Avondale Center, we need the community, again, to be at the table, sharing with us what you want, and what we can do going forward is make sure that we provide, outside of our traditional or already existing programs, things that you'd like to see happen. And by you being at the table discussing this and sharing with us, we can help you get there. Some things we can do, some things we won't be able to do, so there has to be some compromise. I got a list of things from the community, and it was a long list, and I can tell you now, we won't be able to do everything that was on that list. We got to look at it and see what we can do in terms of future programming. And going forward, one of the things that the mayor and I have talked about is that each center would have an area of excellence that they focus on. I would like for the Avondale community to think about an area of excellence that you'd like to focus on. What will you like to be known for around the city? And then as we think about staffing, we can think about getting the staff with the expertise, with the areas that you are interested in, so that we can move forward with that center having an area of excellence. It can be similar or it can be unique than any other center, but you would have to help us come up with that, and we would have to figure out, and with the new staffing alliances, figure out how to get the staff in place with the expertise that you're interested in, along with the regular programming. Those are the three things that I want to talk about and say the existing programs will continue to move forward. We're trying to move in that site without interrupting the existing programming at the existing site. And when we open up in April, we'll just transition smoothly in there. But the staff will be planning way before then. We're starting to plan. We'd like to get in front of the community with a community forum as soon as possible. And I talked to Jonathan Butler in Donna Williams' department, Neighborhood Services, to start planning that process so that programming, you would have as much input, at least 3 or 4 meetings that we can dialogue about what that center programming would look like. So that's where I am right now. We need your help and support going forward so there won't be any miscommunications about the programming going forward. That's all I have at this time. Stacy? You.
I think we're done, Councilman.
Thank
Happy
you.
to answer your questions.
All right, may I go? Is that okay
Yes,
with
sir.
you?
Did you have anything to finish?
All right.
It's you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All the programming and everything that Coach Jennings laid out, I think are things that can move this community forward, and I think they're amazing. But I do have to back up to echo the fact of what we started with was how did we get here? I do remember several community meetings, several times where Heidi and her team came to the YFD Center, sat down and showed us different plans, different drawings, and different renderings of how the gym is going to look. From that last sign-off, I think we did a virtual reality tour where we walked through, me, Mr. Perry, Armand, and a couple of other stakeholders in the community walked through. Has there been any changes to those renderings since then that the community was not aware of? So, and I guess the main focus is when you showed us these last renderings and showed us everything that was going on, were the concrete bleachers in place then?
The image, the screen grab, if you want to go back to it, whoever is manning the computer, I'm sorry, I can't see your face. That is the screen grab from the virtual reality, and you'll look that the materiality on there, it looks really similar to what's in the gym today.
Okay.
We can go back to that screen grab if you want to see what's on the virtual walkthrough.
So
You can go back to that slide.
if you go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So these are the actual renderings
That
that
were
were
shown.
showed at the input
And
meetings.
the
at
video that was shown to you, Councilman, is now available on chattanooga.gov, connect.chattanooga.gov/Avondale.
Okay. And one thing that Coach Jennings expressed that he wants a lot of community input.
That's
and,
not the slide I'm talking about, but that's, I mean, that was also
That's
shown
the-
to the community, but
That's
yeah.
the concrete bleachers there.
Yeah, but there's also a virtual reality walkthrough that Jason, you keep going, yep.
Right there.
That's what's in the video. That's
Okay.
a direct screen grab from the video.
And after all the visual inputs and all the conversations and the sessions that we had at the center, no one changed this from wood or from aluminum to concrete.
No, ma'am. No,
was,
sir.
This is what the architects put in, and this is what you thought would house the facility for the washroom and the lockers, is correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next issue is that despite the information that bothers me now is how did we get to the point to where the gym size, people feel that the gym floor is not regulation and is not going to be regulated or is not a regulation size gym floor.
Yeah.
And this is a, not college, but I think I heard you say a high school regulated gym floor.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, you know, when we, and I have very vivid memories of conversation with you, Councilman, and conversations with people in the community, the first concern we heard from the neighbors, and we heard it loud and clear, was people not believing we were ever going to build it.
Right.
As soon as they saw these drawings, the first thing we heard from people is, you're never going to build this. And I understand the mistrust and, well, I shouldn't say I understand it, I hear it. And so I think we understand that that was people's first concerns. Sometimes it's hard to see and visualize it, much like it may be hard to see that this empty shell is going to hold a regulation basketball court. And maybe in that difficulty to see the final vision, realize that misinformation has been communicated as well. But to speak to the specifics of how that was started, I don't know, but I can confirm, and Councilman Henderson has the blueprints as well to confirm that it is a regulation-sized court.
Well, and then after talking with the community or even going back into the community, I hear their voices of that we just totally want the bleachers torn out, just rip them out completely. And what does that look like to just go ahead and just say, hey, we understand that what you was trying to do, but this is not what we want. We want it ripped out and don't want this at all. How does that look?
So we take community input really seriously. The first thing we did was check into claims of safety and confirm that the court is regulation size, the bleachers are out of the safety zone, and it exceeds any safety requirements set forward by those national governing bodies. And we can confirm the gym is larger than any others. It is, or most others. It's the same size as South Chat, I believe. And the bleachers are safe. But because you felt strongly about getting all the facts on your side, we did get an estimate for removing the entire bleachers. The cost of that is $350,000. And at this point, you know, our job is to confirm that the vision that we laid out for everybody is safe, and that the bleachers are going to provide, you know, this is going to be a great center for everybody that kids can enjoy. It's obviously a lot better than the facility that's there now.
All right, so if, say, $350,000, then I would hear, find the $350,000, get it, pull it from somewhere. You, the city has it. You can take that $350, get it from somewhere. And with this project, I know a lot of my other colleagues up on the podium, they have different centers and things that they're trying to invest in as well. How do we move forward to make sure that we can let the community know that we're not just giving this community something and not looking at safety, not looking at what the community want? How can we assure them that we are going to do all the checks and balances to make sure that this situation is safe, and that we're going to take the extra precaution to make sure this is safe? Because if we're not going to spend the 350 or lose the 350 in moving this, what's next? What do we have on the table to assure the community that we are listening and we are doing what's right, or we want to do what's right?
Yeah, well, Councilman, I think you proposed the idea originally of some sort of liaison group or committee that the YFD department could work with on a more regular basis to hear these options and to discuss what future next step can be. I think that's one concrete step that we're certainly happy to participate in, and to sort of formalize the engagement between the neighborhood leaders, yourself, and the administration. And also think we can provide the documents that show that the plans that we're going to build this to, the construction documents are regulation, they are safe, they do meet the standards of these national organizations.
All right. I also see earlier where you said this is a $6 million project. A lot of people I talk to, they say the center is not $6 million. This is not a $6 million center. So when we talk in the community and we want to know, this is not a $6 million center, but the entire project is $6 million, correct?
Yes, sir. That includes parking lot improvement, street lighting, outdoor playground, basketball court. Yeah, it's not just what's in the four walls. That's an important point.
That would be $6 million. And then earlier you said this is even larger than Miller Park. Some people would say we spent $10 million on Miller Park and not $6 million.
The city's investment to Miller Park was, I believe, $4.3 million, which leveraged 2 private dollars for every $1. So there are philanthropy organizations, private organizations, UNUM, others who contributed.
That contributed to Miller Park.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll yield for a second to Councilman Henderson.
Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman. And by the way, I admire the passion and the desire that you have had and shown towards this project, towards the community, and the just your willingness to work for them. It's really been an inspiration to me. I appreciate all the effort that you've put into this. Chief, I just want to make sure for myself, the council approved $6 million. Has any money been taken out of this project at all?
No, sir.
So we're spending the full 6?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We talked about removing the bleachers, and this may be a Dennis Malone question. I don't know. What happens to the locker rooms? I noticed that the locker rooms were underneath the bleachers. And I'm assuming that the concrete bleachers sort of necessitated that the locker rooms necessitated concrete bleachers. Is that correct? I mean, what happens if we tear the concrete bleachers out to the restaurant?
I can answer, and then if Dennis would like to add, oh, hey, Dennis, feel free to. But I was looped in on all these different conversations. You're absolutely right that the locker rooms and facilities underneath the bleachers necessitated part of the materials being chosen. If we remove that, there is not space anywhere else in the facility to accommodate the restrooms and locker rooms. So, and also the estimate that was given for removing the bleachers did not include new bleachers being constructed back. So there would be,
that was just removing.
that is just removal.
Yeah, okay.
Is that Dennis, is there? Yeah, okay.
Did you get an answer
And it-
to the locker rooms?
Yeah, so what happens to the locker rooms if the bleachers are taken out? We do lose the locker rooms, is that, was
Yes,
that
sir.
your answer?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. I do know that another concern was safety aspect as far as the kids maybe entering at Dodson and Wilcox there. But I did notice on the construction drawings that there's actually a bus drop-off around, I guess maybe you might consider the back of the building, where buses would let the children off and they can enter safely without having to be near the street. Is that correct?
That's right.
And then a parking lot where they can be picked up as well, where they would not have to enter off of the Wilcox and Dodson side. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But
And
I'm
there's
gonna
the way that the foyer is situated, there would still be a way for them to access information once they get into the building, even if they enter from the rear. That was
Okay.
purposely designed that way.
and it looks to me like the building sort of has an urban design to it, being pushed to the sidewalks like many of our buildings in our urban area are. So that was with a thoughtful process that was
Yeah,
constructed
absolutely.
that way.
Yes, sir. And, obviously Heidi has a lot more experience in urban design and architecture, but it was definitely and we had to maximize the space of the actual lot. If you'll notice, we're more, doubling the size of the facility, and the lot itself is not that big. So we purposely did push it more towards the corner to create that edge, to make it safer for pedestrians, but then also wanted to provide a loading drop-off zone for parents to drop their kids off, or for seniors who'd like to walk from a more safe, parking, or have a bus drop-off, et cetera. So it was designed exactly as you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good, sir. Councilman Byrd?
Yes, Stacy, thank you so much for the information that you're giving us today. I would be asked the question, why $350,000 to demo concrete inside of a facility? And after demoing the concrete and stuff outside of the building, I would be asked then, why can't we then build the washroom or the locker room outside the building, somewhere else attached to the building in another place? And then I know the other question would be asked is how, finance-wise, if we was to stop the project today, how would that look going forward, to say that money being lost and the project getting finished? How would that look? So
Yeah.
I guess those three questions. Why so much for tearing out the lockers and the concrete area? And the second thing was building another facility outside to house the locker room and washroom. And then what would happen if we stop the project right now?
So I'll do my best to answer them
Okay.
as best as I can, Councilman. And I'll say, for us, if this project wasn't safe, if we had found information that validated the spirit of these concerns, we'd be having a very different conversation. Because our goal is to fulfill the vision that was laid out, that got the community so excited to hold our feet to the fire to build this building. And so we want to do it right. And if we had found some reason why these weren't safe, then we would be having a different conversation entirely. And so the thing I want to reemphasize is that we double checked. We did our homework. I'm happy to provide the documentation that shows that it meets those standards. And so as to the space of the site and all those things, I'm happy to go further review it. I don't necessarily know the constraints. I know that there were, special considerations made to design it in a way that we felt like was going to yield a safe place for kids to play, and folks to gather and learn and experience a totally new, different type of Avondale Center. And so we'd take further review to answer those questions as thoroughly as maybe you would like me to today. As to postponing any type of construction, logistically, I'm not the construction person, but it would cost a lot of money. It would cause delays in the project. Councilman Henderson had asked a similar question of us. We did a little bit of research about what the net impact would be, but it's really hard to say, Councilman, how that would impact the community. And I frankly want to talk a lot more about getting it right than slowing it down.
Okay. You say you'd rather talk about getting it right than slowing it down.
Yeah, because we've made a commitment to this community that we are going to build a world-class facility, and that's what we think we've designed. And if there are things that need to be reviewed, we're happy to work with your committee to look into those situations and see if there are things, additional investments that can be made to enhance, what people think is the way the center should look. So we're happy to continue to have that conversation with you.
Okay, I definitely want to continue to have some conversations and definitely echo the concerns of the community, and would love to see the President, Ken Smith, on that committee, heading up that committee for us. And it's sad at this point, because something that was so prideful and something that was so good being built in the community, you hear words of inadequacy, you hear words of that this gym is not big enough, and you hear things that it's not regulation, you hear things that the city is not concerned about the safety of our children, and you hear stuff that the city will be willing to just put anything in that community to say we've done something. I want to change that perception as much as possible, and I want to do everything I can to assure that the community of Avondale and the people that will frequent this gym are happy and satisfied with the work that we're doing, because that's what we're here to do, serve. So definitely, I'm going to take this information back. A lot of the community members are here. Me and Mr. Ken Smith will sit down and have a in-depth conversation on where we can go forward with it and how we would like to present things, or the next step to making this situation better for everyone and finding that balance. I think that pretty much will be it. Is it possible, too, you talked about Miller Park getting funding from other companies or private situations. Is it possible for us to get funding or other help? Can people come in? Can we look into that to see, can people come in to try to help if they want to put money in? Or even, I know Mr. Mackey, we talked about the county putting money up to help out as well, to just make this situation even grander if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've approached outside funders about some different things. A lot of times they're sometimes more interested in programmatic elements. And so, but yeah, I'd be happy to set up conversations between you and those folks. I'm happy to participate in any fundraising efforts. I think obviously we'd want to do that with you and with the community to make sure it makes sense with what they want to see, but absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good, Councilman. All right, I see no other lights. We are going to move into committee reports, but before we do, let me just go ahead and say thank you to the Avondale community and all those of interest that are showing up multiple times to hear about this. We know how passionate you are, and a special thank you to Commissioner Mackey. You've been here several times. We appreciate that. You've got your own business, your own work that's keeping you busy at the county. So I would very much appreciate your involvement as well. You and I share a lot of constituency, and I see you out a lot. So I appreciate your involvement. And despite what some people might feel about this project, myself included, understand that you've got two representatives in Commissioner Mackey and Councilman Byrd that have been on top of this more than I can even express. They've been working very, very hard on it. So thank you both, and I know you will continue until we get it right for the community. So thank you. No, sir, we're not doing community input at this time. But at the end of the meeting, there's a 5-minute time period for each individual who may want to address the council. Thank you. At this time, let's move into committee reports with Councilwoman Burrs. No report, sir. Councilman Byrd. No report. Councilwoman Coonrod. Thank you for that committee report, Councilwoman. Councilman Gilbert. No report. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
We will have a Public Safety Committee meeting next week, the 23rd of October. We'll be going over 3 items on next week's agenda concerning the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Ledford. No report, Chairman. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting today, and we will have another one
Thank you, sir. Councilman Oglesby. No report. All good, sir. Thank you very much. All right, we now have reached the time in our agenda for recognition of persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda matters. Assuming we will have a few of those, Mr. Attorney, would you mind reading the rules? And those of you who would like to address the council, if you would please head over to the mic and...
So anyone wanting to speak to the council on a matter that's not on the agenda needs to come up to the microphone this evening. It's provided. You can only talk to the council based upon matters that are in their legislative and quasi-judicial authority. Limit your remarks to 5 minutes unless additional time is provided by the chair. Cannot use any vulgar or obscene language, and can't use this opportunity to personally attack or personally denigrate others. Prefer that you keep all of your remarks to the board and this body rather than to individuals in this body. And the chair can't recognize someone on a matter during this non-agenda portion more than twice in a 30-day time period. And I believe you're okay, ma'am.
Good evening.
Timer. Thank you, counsel. Between me and the other world, there's ever an unasked question. Unasked through some by feelings of delicacy, by others through the difficulty of rightfully framing it. Instead of directly saying, how does it feel to be a problem, they say, I know an excellent colored man in my town, or do not these southern outrages make your blood boil? At these I smile and reduce the boiling to a simmer as the occasion may require. To the real question, how does it feel to be a problem, I seldom answer a word. And yet being a problem is a strange experience. It dawned on me with a certain suddenness that I was different from the others, shut out from their world by a vast veil. For the world I longed for and all of its dazzling opportunities was theirs, not mine. Why did God make me an outcast and a stranger in mine own house? It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, the sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others. One feels his two-ness, an American and a Negro. Two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one darkened body, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. The history of American Negro is the history of strife, this longing to attain self-conscious manhood, to merge his double self into a better, truer self. In the days of bondage, they thought to see one divine event in that of that doubt and disappointment. Slavery, indeed, was the sum of all villainies and the cause of all sorrows, the root of all prejudice. Emancipation was the key to promised land of sweeter beauty than ever stretched before the eyes of a worried Israelite. Years have seemed to pass, 10, 20, 30, my lifetime. And yet the freed man has not even been found the freedom in a promised land to him. Really a stern, concrete test of this underlying principles of the great republic is the Negro problem. And the spiritual striving of the freed man's sons and daughters and travails of souls whose burden is almost beyond the measure of their strength, but bear it in the name of a historic race, in the name of this, the land of their fathers' fathers, and in the name of human opportunity. That is the Strivings of the Negro, published in 1897 by W.E.B. Du Bois. Councilwoman, I do commend you on begging and wanting the community to step up, and we must. I firmly agree, we must. I'm working with you, and sadly, only you, not even the person who's responsible for the district that I'm in. I'm working with only you, a stranger to my district. I'm trying to figure out where we can all fit in on this change that must happen within our neighborhoods. And the questions that I asked the mayor in my meeting with him last week, as a millennial with several other millennials who approached this man questioning, where can we find ourselves trying to make a difference in this community and not leave the burden up to you or even him or his administration. But I walked away with discontent even in the conversation that he had no answers for me, no place for me, and nowhere for me to work diligently, and that I must come up with these answers myself. In the land of my father's fathers, where opportunity, human opportunity, should not be a begging. It should not be a callous nature. It should not be something that we have to ask for. When I look at the breaking down of wealth in districts, that it's locked up in 3 or 4 that are predominantly white, and I see the human strivings and the cutting out of people in communities that are predominantly African American. We are getting ready to go into the coldest nature of our seasons, which is a winter. And what are we doing if we leave it up? I do have to ask you the question of thinking about this, Councilman Byrd. If we have private interests that come in,
Ms. Ma,
what will they
Ms.
do?
Ma, I'm going to give you extra time. I'm going to give you extra time, but
okay.
please do not direct to individuals.
I'm not slandering him.
No, I
I'm
just
not slandering
asked you, ask the council what we are going to do, because we do work as a collective body.
I'm responding to what he asked for the community. That's all.
I know.
That's
Thank
all.
you.
If you want private interest to come in, the burdening question that I have is, what will happen when these private interests put up their money? They then have decision-making power that is unchecked by the people. And just like we have seen in Miller Park, regardless of whether it was a $4 or $10 million investment, we now see a public space that has private security and surveillance. You better ask yourselves the question of what that means when you ask privatized entities to come into your community and to partner with you. You better be careful. But the burden of all of that I'm saying is that it's not just the community that is responsible for what change should occur in this city. But it has to be more than just coming to individuals, that sometimes it is an arguing or a fighting of trying to figure out what must be done. And somebody be willing to say that enough is enough, that we're tired of seeing the city be poor and impoverished in an overwhelming scale. And that we are going to do something about that. Because having a grand building means absolutely nothing if the people outside of it are hungry, starving, jobless, homeless, and poor.
Thank you, Ms. Mott. Yes, sir.
Very hard to follow that speech. I sat there and I was wondering, you know, the guy behind Frederick Douglass years ago, what was he thinking as he approached the podium? But I want to thank the council for giving me the time. I want to talk a little bit about the recreation center. The community is still overwhelmed that we are getting a new facility. It's a new economic investment in our area. There's no other project that big going on in our area. So the community is really grateful. We're more than grateful, we're ecstatic. And that's why we're so passionate about this project, and that's why this community has spoken out in the last couple of days. We are going to get a facility that's going to have great improvement. We're expecting the technology to come in and raise our level of the digital divide that we share. We're also going to get a facility so that we don't have to no longer commingle our activities with each other. It's going to have space. It's going to have a lot of freedom for us to venture into new areas and help uplift our community. We're also going to get more pride. We're going to stay on the focus of our pride. The facility that we've been working with was built, and it is now antiquated. So this new facility is going to, we don't want anybody to think that the community is not grateful, but we are thinking along the lines of safety. And I know she mentioned that this gymnasium is safe and exceeds the standards, but predictability of children. Are you telling me that can be factored in and can be calculated? These are small children, and it is my guess that one child will try to skateboard down that concrete bleacher because you can't predict it. You don't know. The unpredictability of those bleachers are going to be far beyond any calculations you can render. The other thing we want to talk to you about is the fact that the fact that the gymnasium is going to be regulation side, but why did it deviate from the norm? Why did it get concrete when every other gymnasium that we see has retractable bleachers, aluminum or wood? Well, why deviate from the norm? What was in the design that said these concrete bleachers would be apropos for this particular gymnasium? What made that the consciousness come about in the people designing it, and why is it still there? We don't want you to think that nothing at all, we're not grateful, but we're just using common sense in our area. What deviated from the norm? We need that answered for us as a community. So when I talk about this gymnasium or the facility, we're not talking about the fact that it is going, we don't want it or, shut it down for any reason. We just say fix what we think is antiquated or was not good planning on the part of the designers. And we always have a saying that, the concrete and the children will not go together. So if we could regularly think, if we regularly think about the situation, we just want you to understand that we're grateful for the center. We love the center. We've got great expectations for the center. But why did we deviate from the norm? What particular interest said that, concrete inside a gymnasium was a good idea when all across the country that I could see, it's aluminum or wood or retractable or chairs that you have to put out. What made us in our community qualify for more concrete, more block cylinders than any other facility in town? Well, it's just an open contract. I guess they won't have it there.
Are you good, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, my name is Warren Mackey, and I appreciate you all. Say that again?
You have to state your address when you come up.
Hey, Mr. Dahl, I can handle this meeting. I don't need your help. You understand? Mr. Mackey, would you like to continue, sir?
Yes, I will. The community of Avondale, they are not ungrateful for this facility. You all have brought a great service to us. I wish this presentation had been made earlier because it would have cut down on a lot of confusion. Many of us were of the opinion that the gym floor was not of regulation size. And I had called for people to come out from the city and meet with people in the neighborhood. And for whatever reason, it was delayed. And I've got to tell you that my good personal friend, Councilman Byrd, you brought forward many of the issues that we've had. The only two that remains has to do with the entrance at Wilcox and Dotson is a problem. And there's still some concern about the concrete bleachers. I mean, I think they made a point of saying you either get the bleachers or don't get the shower. Ken Smith raised the question again. What made people think to have concrete when no other gym have concrete that we know about was okay? Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Right ahead, Mr. Dahl.
My name is Christopher Dahl, and I reside at 2020 East 12th Street. And I'd like to thank the council for allowing me to speak because, this week I'm not on the no-no list. I would first like to state that I would wish this council to look into the ordinance that sets the provisions for creating the rules for this meeting. Because if you look at that ordinance, you'll see that it states that the rules that are set for this council should not breach federal, state, or local ordinances. The next thing I'd like to speak about is I would hope that you guys look into the interlocal agreement that has been made with the City of Chattanooga and the Hamilton County Water and Wastewater Treatment Authority. Last week I saw that the city had to pay a hefty fine to the EPA for sewer overflows that occurred last year. according to the interlocal agreements, some of this fine cost should be incurred onto the WWTA, so I'm hoping that this will be looked into and that they will have to pay out accordingly because that's what they're supposed to according to the agreement. You know, some of the overflows that happen is due to, for example, they have the city of Collegedale has their own interlocal agreement with the city of Chattanooga. Then what has happened is the WWTA has gone behind the backs of the city and created their own agreement with that municipality as well. So whatever capacity that Collegedale doesn't use up is being used up by the WWTA for their service out in Ottawa, which is creating, you know, overflow issues in the inner city of Chattanooga. So I would hope that this would be looked into and that they be fined accordingly. Thanks, and have a great rest of the day.
Yes, I'd like to.
Can you give us your name, sir?
My name is Sylvester Harris. I live at 3300 Curtis Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee. One of my biggest problems is East Chattanooga overall. I think we've been overlooked. I think all the councilmen and stuff needs to come out, and I'm not singling out not one or two people, everybody, that we've been overlooked. I mean, I look around, growing up in Chattanooga, I looked how Alton Park revived, and I grew up in Alton Park. Now something to be thankful for. I go out there, it's beautiful. I remember going up and down Main Street. It was a thing of an eyesore. It was prostitution, it was drugs, it was everything. Now people pushing, you know, baby carts. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I look at North Chattanooga. It didn't revive, but East Chattanooga's just been pretty just left out of everything. A lot of our problem is we need to bring the housing industry back to East Chattanooga. We need subdivisions. We need to bring everybody, black, white, everybody, to try to bring East Chattanooga back to what it can be. I grew up in East Chattanooga. I've lived there most of my life. After 15, that's what I moved that side of town. We had plenty of stores. We had drug stores. We had just, you know, it was an infrastructure that was really built up. Now it's nothing now. You can't, if you need a screw, you got to go 10 miles just to get a screw. If somebody need a prescription fulfilled, they can't even get that. You can't even go to the grocery store. And I believe that we need to bring East Chattanooga back. If you build up these areas, and now they're so wonderful, and I remember South Chattanooga growing up in all them areas too at one time, my relatives and stuff. Hey, it was just pure, just old abandoned houses, run down. Now I go over in that area, I think, God, if my mother was alive, she wouldn't believe this. She wouldn't believe to see what Main Street's looking like. Jefferson Street, all those places, build back up, everybody happy. But East Chattanooga, it's just left out. And I think the city have just abandoned us. And I have a statement on that gym. I appreciate what they done. My safety concern is how close it's built to the street. And you know how kids are. You know they ride bikes. You know they push and shove. And gonna run back and forth. Why wasn't that a facility built farther back, just for protection of the children? Yes, you made it very easy for the school kids to get off, and that's a great thing. But you didn't put in that problem. And I challenge all of you to go out there and look at it. Come on, help us out. Join the rest of them. Come on out there. It ain't your district. This is all our city. We all in this together. You know, if one fall, we all fall. So come on, let's go. Let's, y'all, you know, spend some time, get with our councilman out that way and say, come on, we're going to get on a bus or whatever we're going to do or whatever you're going to do to get there. Let's make it happen. Let's see what the problem is. Let's go out in East Chattanooga and let's see what's going on. Because if you can clean up Main Street, you can clean up all these other places for sure. And you know what's bad? The main police department is in East Chattanooga. So why are we having these problems when we got a police department that close to our neighborhood, but then we're having all these problems? But now you cleared it up on Main, you cleared it up in South Chattanooga, you cleared it up in North Chattanooga, you cleaned everybody else up, but we still not getting none of that. I'm not blaming anybody. Yes, it's a lot of our fault and we got to do more. You know, but I remember when my kids was growing up and I kept on them about picking their bicycle up off the ground. I said, look, I'm pulling up, you're gonna run over your bicycle. Come up, next day, the same thing. But when they grow up a little bit bigger and they bike outgrow those bikes, I said, I'll challenge you. I'll give you half the money to get that bicycle and you put half in. When I started coming up, those bicycles was on the kickstand, it was on a porch, they was put up. When you got input on your area and what you do a lot better with it. But when somebody else give you something, you'll do less with it. And I think of some of this stuff that we don't get enough input and we don't feel good about ourselves, because when you don't have a challenge in on what you have nothing to put in it. But if you got something invested in it, you'll do a lot better with it. So that's what I'm saying. I'm challenging all y'all, everybody on this podium, come to East Chattanooga. Give us a chance. I like stuff, you know. I worked a lot of years out of my life. I paid a lot of taxes. So I want my part of the pie too. I look at all these dreams and everybody's supposed to dream and it's supposed to be America. Let's make America great again like I hear these things. And if we're gonna make it great, it takes all of us as a team. It takes this whole team right here to make it great. Not just those two, not him, not you. It takes all of us as a team. Like they say, it takes a village to raise children. So it takes a village to run a world. So let's make it happen. That's all I ask. Just make it happen. That's all. And thank y'all for y'all time and y'all listening to me. And I'm sorry if I took up too much of it.
No, you're good. You're good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Council. How y'all doing? Jared Mitchell, Anthony Bird, Ms. Coonrod. You're looking at Avondale right here. I was a child.
Give us your name.
My name is Antonio Boston.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I got property on Wilson Street. Got property in East Chattanooga. What else you need no more? Jared Mitchell, when I started going to the center as a little boy, Jared Mitchell worked for Parks and Recreation. It was Parks and Recreation. We was out at Warner Park. I met Mr. Mitchell years ago. He was a fine guy to work with. I was just a little bit of boy. I hadn't much growing up. Come from a poor family. Come from Holly Street. Come from the Woodlands area. Met Anthony Bird back in the day. Never knew he was going to be city council, but I'm sticking behind him 100%. I got a very input in the community. I'm a motivator. I'm a bail bondsman. Hey, can you realize a little guy like me, a bail bondsman out of Avondale, all the crime, all the dope, all the gang members? Got Super T who coached me. Mr. Jennings coached my whole family. I got Mr. Glenn Scruggs back there that's an officer that raised me. But I cannot let my kids, if you see my posters on Facebook, I'm getting attention around the world about this situation. Our local media is not even on it. It's a big thing. Can we just go back and look at the bleachers? Because look at the area we're in. Look at the showers you putting under moisture. You putting a shower under concrete. If you know anything about concrete, you ever live in the projects, when the steam get in the air, the room get moist, steam start happening, mold start happening. These people are not that work for the city, don't live in my community, and they're not there every day. I was just there 2 weeks ago. Somebody stole some stuff off the site. Up there. I called Jared Perry at 11 o'clock at night because I do a trip around the neighborhood because we don't got number 3 or 4 police officers in that whole neighborhood. So I do my little checks, and I caught somebody stealing something. I called Jared, and I said, Jared, what can we do about this? He said, no, we can do, man. On the site where the center's being built now, it's an open site at night. It's dark up there, no lights is up there. But City Council, I'm a prime product of the community. A little boy who didn't have nothing, but look at me now. God is so good. And if anything I can do to help my people that's under me, you know, I'm out there every day fighting and fighting. I'm a true fighter. I feed the seniors every Thanksgiving. I try to feed them seniors something to eat. It ain't that they need it. It's that my grandfather's 85 years old, and he's a so proud of Avondale community. And before I leave this world, I just want the right thing done. It ain't about the money. So what, y'all get money for everything else. I done been on a lot of projects with the city as a contract worker, and money comes up for the river part. Remember, they was messed up, they fixed that problem. Mr. Smith and the council, just please consider the concrete bleachers for my community. Because they older, they're not gonna say nothing. They probably scared to say some things, you know. And I'm just gonna stay here for my people, if I can. And hey, it's a great idea. We thankful for the center because hey, we need a good center because right now in our old center, the ceiling falling down, the door coming loose. Hey, I love the idea. But at the same time, just give us one thing we want because it's their idea. It wasn't our dream. I mean, it wasn't our dream, it's their dream. The contractor's not even from here. What do you know about Avondale? What do you know about going to center? I played sports in school. These people ain't played no sports who putting the center together. Now, coach, but these people ain't been on no court. and playing no sports. How do you know how a regulation court's supposed to be? You got bleachers on one side with a safety zone. They run into that wall, they are hurt. That's a lawsuit that the city is waiting on. I'm trying to save the city money, I'm trying to save the community money, and I'm trying to save another dead body. So, Mr. Smith, Anthony Bird, Coonrod, and Jerry Mitchell, I love you to death. You remember me from Warner Park back in the day. But let's consider the thing. Where's in the state of Tennessee there's concrete bleachers in a recreation center? It's nowhere. And I've been everywhere. It's nowhere. So I'm just taking into consideration. I know I got a dog in a fight, but hey, I don't work for the city. But if I can help out, I would. And I appreciate y'all. And God bless all of y'all. Go home and think about it. Name one center around here that got concrete bleachers. And I give you $1,000 out of my pocket. I don't need your money. Okay? That's how serious it is with me. I would donate. I got funders. But please consider for my little kids that's growing up. I got a little boy, 11 years old, growing up in Avondale. And bad as he is sometimes, I can see him now running to them bleachers, busting his head, and I'd be at Erlanger Hospital. And that's one problem. I'm going to tell you for what I know ain't worth what I heard is what's in my household and for what I know. So please consider it. Please, if y'all get out there, stop construction if you can. It don't cost you that much money. They didn't work the other day because it rained. So what's the 2 days to stop construction? Go look at it. Okay? May God bless y'all all and keep y'all.
Thank you, Tony.
My name is Liz Hester. I live at 2018 Robbins. But first, I want to give honor to God and all praises to God and to the mayor of this city and our wonderful, wonderful county and city councilman. And to these wonderful people of Chattanooga who make up this wonderful, wonderful city. And Councilman, and to all of you, I would like to leave this to you. I don't have a lot to say. I've been involved in politics 50 years. Everybody just about here know me. Came from Alton Park. Held office out there for 40 years as the chairman of Alton Park, so most of you all know me. But what I want to say to you, I want every one of you all, when you go home tonight and go to bed, I want you all to think about this. If this was your child, or your grandchild, or your great-grandchild playing on concrete bleachers, and something happened to them, what would you think? And you can't say what will happen. They could bust their head, they could bust their legs. You don't know what could happen to them. Could hurt somebody else. So think about this. This is all I want to leave with you all. Because I have 3 wonderful daughters. I had 7 grandchildren. One got killed wrongly, but it's all right too, because he's in heaven. And I got 6 more grandchildren. And I got 13 great-grandchildren that I'm proud of. Ooh, I'm so proud of, and thank God for them. So I work diligently in my community. I'm the vice president of the Churchville neighborhood. I work all over this city. And I even get off of my second job to go to my meetings to make sure that I be there for my community because I love my community. I still go to Alton Park and help out there. But I just want you all to think about it. When you go home and go to bed, hope you say your prayers first. Think about it. If it's your child or your grandchildren, anybody you know or your neighbor's children, think about what would happen.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Gary Ball. My business is at 2520 East 14th Street. And I'm here on something pretty boring, I guess. But I will say, I know Dennis real well. I've been competing against J&J Construction for about 20 years, and they've beaten my butt a number of times on bids. I think that's who's building that job, isn't it? I think they've been in Chattanooga for 20 years. So this is how misinformation gets out, and nobody wants to step up and correct it, so I thought I'd just correct that one piece of misinformation. What I'm here about is the gentleman talked about Main Street. I've been working on cleaning up Main Street for 20 years. There's no prostitutes on Main Street because there's no prostitutes hardly on Main Street. If you want to say there is one, you tell me where they're at and I'll get
Hey, Mr.
them.
Ball, you can address us, but let's not get into conversation with the community.
But because we ran most of them to East Lake, and I'll just tell whoever belongs to East Lake, that's where most of them went. That's where, when we have a police meeting on the second Tuesday of the month, that's where we talk about every single time where most of the prostitution is in the city right now. What I'm here about is, as an emerging community, a developing community, Ridgedale, been working for 20 years, and my business has been there the whole time. We're feeling our oats a little bit. Things are happening. Property values going up. That means the tax base is going up. But with that, we still have a lot of rental property. And I go back to Chief Dotson, then Chief Cook, and Freeman Cooper was the captain. We worked on cars on the streets that appear to be abandoned but don't have valid tags, and they're taking up parking spaces and littering and cluttering all kinds of streets way back then. And I thought back then that the police department settled how to handle that problem. We as people move in the neighborhood, that makes on-street parking in a lot of these neighborhoods, especially Ridgedale, a premium, because a lot of the alleys the city doesn't maintain anymore, so you can't park in the rear. So we have been discussing this at the police meeting, CPIC, and we have turned in a bunch of vehicles, and the police came by. Glenn was our captain a number of years ago when we were Sector 2. And put the yellow tags on, and of course the people that own the cars take them right off. And so I would ask, and I think it's going to take probably the city attorney or maybe their attorney out there at the police department, I don't know, I guess they've still got one, to go back and look at the city code, because it's very vague, and I heard you talking about passing a bunch of stuff to do away with archaic stuff. But if you read it, it's very vague about what an abandoned vehicle is. And we've got people storing their cars on the street with covers over them, probably with not valid tags on them. Now, the question is, if you don't have a valid tag, that means you can't have any insurance. So why is the city content to, in these neighborhoods that are trying to push ahead, and this happens a lot in other neighborhoods that are needing to push, why can't we come up with a firm understanding that the police department can use when they go talk to people and say, I don't care whether the car can move back and forth, because that's what the officer told my son about the one that's in front of his house yesterday. And he said, my son said, well, it still doesn't have a valid tag on it to be out here on the street. He said, oh, I'll have to check into that. So why do we want to not go ahead and, if people can store their cars on the street, let's just make it universal in the city that they can do that without a valid tag, without any insurance. And if they don't want to move it for 2 years, they don't have to move it until somebody comes out and says, move it forward 10 feet and back 10 feet. So I'm just asking you if you could think about that, if the city attorney needs to work with them on it, somebody look at the code on that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Good evening, Council. I'll be very brief. My name is Kenneth Simpson. I just want to say that after reviewing the meeting tonight, the city did a real good job of baiting and switching. You changed the narrative. The people came in to ask about the concrete bleachers, and the city did another song and dance for the people instead of addressing the issues that was at hand. I've been at 5 different meetings about this situation, about the concrete bleachers, and not one time had the mayor been at any meeting nor his representatives. Now, when you want our votes, you come to all our tea parties, to our dinners, to our barbershops, and everywhere to get our vote. But then when we have concerns that we want to address, it falls on deaf ears. Now, I want to challenge the 10-foot buffer. I don't think it's going to actually be 10 foot. The president went inside and measured, and he came up with 6 foot. Now, anytime you're in a dead heat run and you're trying to break, 6 feet is not going to be enough. So I think before you continue on with the project, while we still have time to take it, I'm not saying stop, because you can still work on the other side of the project rather than work on the gym. So you still can keep construction going, but you can at least work on the issue of the bleachers. The concrete bleachers are a major safety concern. And another thing we're looking at the concrete bleachers is when you try to host events, it's hard to sit on concrete. And as you get older, you don't want to sit on concrete. So how many people will actually be going to support their grandchildren and children to sit on concrete bleachers? Not many. So I'm saying to the council, to you, to stakeholders in this community, that we want to challenge those issues and make sure and ask that you would go out and champion our cause. Now, if it comes up that the gym is what it says it is, then we okay. But before we go any further in closing the gym, then it would be even harder to take things out because we've already closed it in. So now on the backside, it's still open. And we can take the concrete out and we can put retractable bleachers in. In my time at Parks and Recreation in 30 years, we never put in concrete bleachers. South Chattanooga, I was the first to go into South Chat. We had retractable bleachers. Brainerd, Jerry Mitchell was the administrator. We put in retractable bleachers. In 2018, we go back to what they was putting in 1950. Something is wrong. And another thing, before I leave, I questioned several officials within the YFD, and they were under the assumption that there would be retractable bleachers. So if you're gonna put all the burden on the people, when the people who's supposed to be operating this project didn't even know what it was gonna be. Now, I won't disclose their name because you know what happens when you find out, you'll try to eliminate them or fire them. But that goes to tell me that the city has to take some responsibility in this project as well, because they didn't know exactly what was gonna happen from step to step. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me. My name is Melva Shepard Moore, and I'm actually representing my daughter that lives in, and my grandson that lives in I guess it's the 4th District, well, East Chattanooga, you know, where in the Avondale community. And I used to live there as well. And I would like to, you know, commend, you know, all of you, you know, Councilman Byrd, Councilman Coonrod, all of you. You said a lot of you know, very important and interesting things this evening. And I think everybody, you know, wants to help. You know, Commissioner Mackey, he does a lot. I'm not going to call, you know, I know you mentioned about pointing people out and all that, but I appreciate all of you, Councilman Gilbert, all of you for everything that you're trying to do for the community. A lot of great questions were asked tonight. Anyway, I'll be all over the place in a few minutes if I don't get to my point. But I have 2 concerns tonight related to what was on the, I know this is supposed to be not things that are not on the agenda, but everybody's talking about agenda issues, so I wanted to mention a couple of things. One thing that I'm passionate about is the Harriet Tubman property. I never lived there, but I had family and friends, you know, friends mainly that, you know, lived there. And I just feel like I'm excited, and I love the energy, you know, I'm excited about the Avondale Recreational Center, and I think it's a great thing. It's going to be a great thing for our kids and the community. But I feel a better investment probably would have been to maybe build a recreation center, purchase the Harriet Tubman property, and maybe put a recreation center there. You wouldn't have to worry about the streets and all these other issues, you know, that we're having. There's plenty of space for the, you know, the center and everything. But, I mean, it's already been done, and moving forward, I hope that you all will, you know, get the answers and the solutions to what's going on with the, you know, with the bleachers and all this stuff. But I think moving forward, we need to
think more about what an investment really is. You know, I think, like I said, a better investment would have been to purchase the Harriet Tubman property, which is over 36 acres. Maybe, you know, build a recreation center there, and you could have put maybe more than a recreation center there. And you wouldn't have some of the problems, you know, that you're having with the street and all this stuff at the facility. Question that I have is, as I was listening and watching the slides earlier, I know you all said that you wanted to include the older building, you know, with the newer building. And how much did you all save, you know, by including that other old structure? You know, maybe that could go toward, if they have to tear the bleachers down, maybe you could use some of that money, because I'm sure you saved some money by keeping that old part of the building. And like I said, I'm all over the place. I wasn't going to say anything, but those are my concerns. You know, my comments. I just wanted, like I said, I feel like ultimately it's still up in the air about the Harriet Tubman property, and I strongly feel that it should be invested back into the community. Maybe a preparatory school or something like that to maybe prepare, you know, you've got recreation all over the community, but maybe a preparatory school to try to help, you know, without, you know, all these organizations. We have so many organizations and people that are, you know, wanting to help the community. Why not, you know, create a school or something where these organizations can get more involved, you know, and maybe become volunteers, teachers, or whatever, you know, and then, you know, they can play later. They got the recreation center, it's there. But we need so much more, you know, than just recreation centers, you know, in the communities. There's a mentality thing, I think, going on, and that needs to be addressed, because if we don't reach the minds and the hearts of people, then a recreation center is just not gonna solve the problem. So, I mean, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to address the council this evening? Hang on. I got this on timer and not the cube. Sorry. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Man, I wish all of Avondale was still here, and I really wish that somebody was videoing it when the guy stood up and said that we got to do better, speaking of us as a people, and when he also said that we got to make America great again. But when you think about that statement, even if we remove Trump out of that whole statement and we apply that to ourselves, let's make East Chattanooga great again. Let's make us great again. Let's make our rec centers great again. And we take ownership of that phrase, just imagine all the great things that we can accomplish together. But the guy also said this, that, no, Ken, you said this statement, and it was a very powerful statement. Why did we deviate from the norm? And this is what clicked, is that's the problem. We refuse to move from the norm. We're accepting of what has been conditionally placed on us as what's normal. We refuse to see any change of any difference. And sometimes that could be good or it could be bad. And as I sit here and I hear all the issues relating to Avondale Center, which is great, you know, hearing from the community to come. But I live in a community and serve the other side of the community where the recreation center only have one way in, one way out. We're only, the sidewalk, we take 10 steps and that's our door. So we've got traffic coming in and out, the school bus letting off kids. You got drug dealers right across the street. You got drug dealers on the corner. And you got people just so happen every now and then they may want to open fire. All in the midst of kids trying to get into this one access to the recreation center. Now, the question was posed of who decides to put concrete bleachers in a gym? And why would we allow our kids to come, and are we supporting these things? Well, I support gyms all the time that has concrete bleachers. How many of us have been to McClellan Gym? They have the little dance teams, and our kids go and we see them, right? Dancing, and we cheering them on, and we may go to the ball game. How many people have taken our kids to see Disney on Ice? I took mine all the time until they became grown, and now I take my 3-year-old granddaughter. Guess what? They got concrete bleachers. The only difference is they got plastic seats on top of the concrete bleachers. Maybe that's a solution. We've got concrete bleachers. And I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one that's seeing it like that or viewing it, but we got these concrete bleachers that's done been the center stone of the conversation and just done took the positiveness away from the recreation center. And we've got other recreation centers. We just in Eastdale got some roll-in bleachers with 3 little sections. You roll them in. They're not retractable. And I've been going to this center since I was a young girl, and we ain't have bleachers. We didn't have the opportunity to have games or kids, but we just made do with what it was. We was appreciative of just that. And we're fighting over bleachers. Washington Hill Center, they need repairs, and I appreciate the advocacy around it, but I just want you to see that there's other avenue. I mean, maybe it's because it's a rec center that, you know, but we can make those, we could put plastic on it, we could put, you know, some cushions on it, and we can beautify just that concrete. But I do understand the point where the community is saying, hey, we'd rather just have them removed out at all costs. And for me, I'd rather just have me a new Eastdale Center with that $350,000. So that's it goes both ways. But we have to think about, and like she said, Councilman Byrd, and you know, they've been working real hard on coming up with some kind of solution. Hopefully we can come to some kind of common ground about this issue, because I don't want it to take away from the positive things that are gonna happen at this recreation center, because there's gonna be some great things that happen at this location. So whether if they remove the bleachers or decide to fix it up to where we can appreciate the concrete bleachers, or whatever, we would put Ken name on every bleacher in there. However we choose, add Mr. Moreland name on, however we choose to do it, so we can most definitely, you know, enjoy the recreation center that was there for all of us, not just, you know, for the Avondale community, but for everybody to come frequent this center. But I do appreciate, you know, Avondale community coming out, most definitely. And I really wish that somebody would have had their phone out recording it, so the community could have saw the impact from the Avondale community and could have heard the things that the citizens said at the dais that made sense, right? So thank you again, and thank you to Councilman Byrd for all that you're doing to represent that district.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Did I have a motion? Move to adjourn. Yes, sir. We are adjourned.